And tonight I'm painting part of York and its famous Shambles, a place where they used to have a meat market, as one of our viewers, Jim, just told me. To protect the meat, the buildings used to overhang and protect it. Well, with a bit of a creating a bit of a shadow, I'm guessing, a bit more coolness. So maybe if you know some more information, you can let us know. That would be fantastic. But today I'm interested in a vertical composition of the buildings, kind of leaning towards each other. So the perspective is slightly quirky. We've got the overhanging buildings. We have a dusky type of light, and we have loads of light coming from the windows from the shops. And we've got a street full of people. So I'm interested to create that an atmosphere of that playfulness of light, pre-Christmassy atmosphere, maybe a little bit of snow settling in as well. So I'm looking for some exciting layouts for my composition, right? So I'll put my image a little bit more over here as I'll start, and might need to move it later on. So I'm going to start with sketching the layout. So I'll go for some white oak and a little bit of violet. I picked up a dark violet background today because loads of my buildings will have darker tones, and I want to see some of that depth quite immediately. Right, so let's find the sky, that shape we can see straight away, and it's taken most of and if it takes further, goes further down than halfway through our image, something like that. So I'm looking for a shape of the sky first. Then I'm going to look for perspective of this building. I think let's have a look somewhere here. We'll have a nice steep, we can see the bottom of one of these buildings, yeah, overhanging black and white buildings there. Okay, so that's might be coming up somewhere here. So I'll give myself some ideas of how the shapes are developing. Okay, so that's maybe the top of the roof. Again, another top of the kind of the ceiling of that overhanging floor. It's going to be somewhere here. Just roughly break it down into segments so we can see it's a different direction to some of those surfaces. Okay, and then I have a window. Let me have a look if I've got it right here. So maybe another frame. So I'm going to look for some big shapes. I might not go into details yet to see if I've got it right here, first of all. Okay, and there's another window behind here, a bit of light. And there will be a window open somewhere here. Okay, I'll check all my perspectives first before I'll start working into further details. Okay, that will be a window cell there. Okay, some nice marks of the classic black and white houses. Okay, we'll see the window cell lit up. And some of the vertical lines will start being slightly wobbly. Quite often these windows and the whole buildings are quite wonky, quite quirky in its structure. They're moving, they're changing their shapes. For example, the perspective on this side is quite wobbly. So for example, that rooftop, that's how the camera as well helps out, creating much more steeper perspective lines. Let's have a look and what range that is going to be. Okay, so probably roughly to halfway through there. So yeah, I've got it right. Okay. So on this side, I'm gonna make so that vertical line is no longer vertical because of change, kind of all the building kind of going slightly. It's the third perspective because I'm looking up a bit more than just straight down the street. So that's what's going to be happening here. Okay, some excitement about the roof shadow there. Again, we'll have some windows. Okay, I can leave them again slightly obscure for now. They will be all lit up in a different way. Have a nice sign. Okay, I think that might be slightly lower. Maybe all of that. And let's have a look at the structure here as well. So the depth of the buildings is not huge. The streets are very narrow. So I could pull all these lines together, and then they will all meet somewhere together. Yeah, all of that one will come in. Yeah, the same with the other building, but they might have a slightly different perspective, vanishing point, because they probably stay not quite parallel to each other, but slight angles to each other. Some lights there, and then I've got some more lovely, almost like steps for all the structures, holding those mini balconies, overhanging shapes. Let's have a look at a good shape. Lovely wooden structure which holds the sign. Maybe a tiny bit lower. Okay, maybe somewhere here, but let's just match it with what I've got on the opposite side. Okay, so this sign is somewhere here. Okay, I might just deliberately make it a tiny bit bigger. but that doesn't quite match. I might need to make it slightly lower. That's better. And the window is going to stay somewhere here open. I might exaggerate how much space is left around it, almost putting two buildings against each other, almost as if you can stretch out. That's still all fine. I can make window, drop it down, and this shapes could be slightly bigger. Okay. Also using these colors, ochre and violet, already creates, if I go for more into the ochre, gives almost quite a fiery, lit up atmosphere. Give it an angle here, a bit more stronger angle. So it's going to be lower. Okay. Right, so those rows will stay here. And then I can do a little further back, stepping back into the building. And I can create some extra light. Okay, again, another little structure on the wall. And not that window. It's going to be right here. And then finally, I'm going to decide how many people I'm going to involve. And so look at the house at the back. So if I simplify the shapes, okay. So the shapes there, and then maybe I'll just put a couple of heads or faces. Higher. So here I'm interested more in the proportion of groups of people. So I need to identify some of the figures which will be slightly bigger and which one's going to be slightly smaller. So I've got this gentleman right in the front. I think I can get him quite simplified. It's quite nice to have a big scarf, shoulders, just a bit of light on the face there immediately, and some smaller faces, somebody's total silhouette of the coat walking further the back, some of the silhouettes of doors, windows open. Okay, let's put a couple of windows here as well. So then I'll start thinking about the light and how my darker shadows will start coming in. Okay. Okay, there's another face. I've got a lady with her hand up. She's doing some photographs, but I think I'm just going to leave her just looking up. I think that will be enough. I want to simplify the shapes here. Blonde hair, glasses. Okay, maybe change of direction for her jaw in comparison. Okay, maybe just another scarf there, something else. Just big shapes. She ended up with quite a big nose. Oops, now I'm so smudged. Okay. Just want to have simple shapes so they're going to be distracting from the points of interest. Quite like the character of the glasses there. Another face at the back. Something light. Somebody else walking. Maybe a little boy, well, a young boy. Again, nice beanie and a big hood. So that's take the focus again, some more. Couple of ladies with longer blonde hair. So I'm looking for the size of the heads, the rough proportions, their position, and that creates the busyness of the street. There were quite a lot of ladies with long blonde hair that evening. By the look of it, I haven't quite paid attention. But that's quite nice and easy to paint. And I moved them a little bit across. I think that lady could have been slightly bigger in size. Okay, let's put some extra light in here. A few silhouettes of the jackets. This person just looking down here, probably looking where he's stepping, or probably on his phone, knowing current state of everybody. Checking their phones. Okay, so I've got my overall perspective here. My lines going a bit more triangle up, and further below they're much more straight and much more horizontal, vertical than the rest. Okay, so I've got my first big layout sorted. So I'll start painting now with some of the sky. I want to introduce some of the blues because I have got already some of the darks, and I can very quickly go into some of those golden ochres and lit up areas, but I want to introduce some strong blue to show it's evening, the light is setting, but still very beautiful outside. So I have some fellow blue and a little bit of white. I want to have a stronger pigment. It needs to be slightly lighter than my buildings, so possibly lighter than my current background, although some of the darker tones can be darker than my current background as well. So let's just place some of that color and see if that will give us a night feel, because it will be supported by loads of dark tones. Hopefully that will work. So phthalo blue and white. And I need a bit more paint. And towards the bottom of the sky section, I want to change that color to slightly, very minor, lighter version, but also I want to turn it to slightly different color as well. I'll go for ultramarine. Okay, so some of my sky, and I'll go for some ultramarine now. Okay, at the moment, similar darkness, just smaller, lighter tone. That will help me as well to define. I think I'm going to keep my window bigger than it is on the photograph. I think that's a nice effect of exaggerating it, exaggerating the size. So it means that I can paint over it. I'll remember where the frame was. Just softening some paint so it spreads easily. And again, I can define the rooftops here. That's its silhouette. Now for the buildings not to stand out, just brown, but to start belong to that sky light as well, I'm going to just dilute some of my blue here. I think maybe blue and small amount of violet. And I'll paint maybe some of the parts of the walls here in that similar color. It looks slightly similar at the moment. I will have a nice dark shadow underneath. Okay, maybe my windows need to move slightly. Okay, but that gives me an idea of actual shadow I'm going to have here in the house. And I think the wall will need to be slightly darker. There's a hint of warmth in it. I think I could go with a hint of ochre there. I don't want any green in it. So if I'll go stronger into the violet. So that's an interesting color. Okay, it's a bit darker than the sky, not lighter. So I'm constantly comparing it. So it's quite similar to my current violet background. So that's not quite the color I still want. Okay, let's just mix that one a bit more. Very, very small change. Okay, that's a bit better. So blue is present there, but not as strong. Okay, and here I think this blue could remain at the top and maybe then blend a little bit more naturally. Again, when it's in contents of other shapes, I might exaggerate that blue. Okay. And some other blue shapes. So a bit of white and fresher blue. I think it's not to be much fresher than that. Without any mixtures of violet in it or ochre. So some fresh white, phthalo blue, making it slightly lighter. Quite a glowing light blue. I'm going to put it on a couple of buildings over here. They appear to be lighter than sky. I think it's just the reflections of other, maybe light, street light or something else in there in that square. So that blue will start merging with some warmer light coming from underneath, but that gives me that opportunity to put it a bit more bolder blue. So I'm finding the connections of other blues. I might do something on the pine tree here. So I'm looking for that variety of blues, which could be a reference point and balance of the sky as well. Possibly some cooler light in between the window frames. I just make it slightly under an angle. I don't know, that might be the light within the shop. It might be the actual window frames. We'll see. Some sort of coolness of the light will be present there as well. And then I like the coat of the boy at the front. That's enough blue color, but it is highlighted and has that grayish blue. And I can immediately balance my blues by placing that. Okay, maybe his hat. So looking for all the blues gives me that reference point before I move on to the other colors. Darker tone for his jacket here. And maybe this gentleman's hat. Tiny bit more darkness, maybe changing it into darker violet colors, just a little bit to offset the shape. This might be not quite as bold. Yeah. yet. More blacky violet. Just want to have a nice contrast here, which will bring hopefully the figure a bit more close to us. Same like next to this boy. With another shape, simplified shape. And there are a few dark tones here, but those dark tones will be good for offsetting the highlights I'll be doing very shortly. Okay. Right, and some of the major darks feels like in place because of my darkness of the buildings. I'm gonna go for some highlights of the windows and where the light is reflecting on the walls as well. So again, I need to make sure I'll wash my brush well if I move into some warmer colors. And I'm gonna go, okay, there's still a bit of blue there. Because I'll go for my warm colors. Any blue will make my color quite green, especially if I'll go for some yellows. And that's where I'd like to go for some cadmium yellow, maybe a drop of ochre. It feels a little bit too strong into the yellow. I want more orangey feel, will be much more deeper color. That's better. And let's lighten up. There is here. Initially, some of these colors might be a little bit transparent. I don't think you can see it on the camera because the background is so dark. I might need to go over some of the areas a couple of times so they will remain opaque. So slightly red in color between the windows. There's a shadow there, but that is creating some extra light. That's going to be my window frame. Okay. So now I'm looking for shapes of light and shapes of the building's walls and the window frames themselves. So let's go for some of that pinky warm color, orangey color. Might be a little bit bold for the moment, but I think I can soften it down. There's a nice boldness of that light next to a very bold shape. I think I can go confidently all the way down. Just trying to check the shape of my sign and where it's actually gonna go. And there is another. That's better, a bit more stronger. A little bit more stronger now in that orange. Quite lit up areas here. And I can exaggerate gently some of the shapes as well. The size of the shapes and maybe the color. I can see there's a hint of red there, but maybe I should put a little bit of stronger red just as an extra pattern of color. We'll see how it will settle in. Right. Any other similar? I think I might be brave to go and make that brick wall slightly exaggerated in its color. But then when I put the light in the window behind it, that should work well. And I can see quite strong pink lit up warm, but more into the pink. Yeah. And it gently gets darker towards the bottom. Maybe there's a shadow. And also some of the faces might have a similar color, because the faces will be picking up the light from the streets. Maybe a smaller brush will be slightly easier to handle. Okay. So it looks quite serious here. Way too serious here. Maybe we can make a smile later on. Okay, and let's find some of the shapes. A bit more water on my brush. So I'm looking for overall shapes. I'm not looking for eyelashes or the exact eye. Shape. I'm looking for pattern of light. Okay, so that might be something overall lighting up. The face, the brush is still, it's fine as I wanted to do. Some finer strokes. Gives me some patchiness for some reason. Sometimes it's because I don't have enough paint on my brush. Or maybe because the brush is getting old and then its bristles not as maneuverable, not as easy to manipulate. Okay, so that's his face lit up now. Maybe another ear there, maybe even part of that light is catching on his scarf. Or the hood, or both, so I'm not sure what he's wearing there. Bit of both. His shoulder. I think that light could be a bit more stronger here as well. So again, I'm looking for the lights. I'm looking for those shapes of light. Okay. Bit of a monster here from the girl. We'll come back to that. Anything else in the faces at the back? Maybe just a little highlights. Just want to keep it simplified. Maybe even do something here. And these people will have slightly different light on them. They'll have a darker faces and only a little bit of lit up color. Peeping from behind them. And slightly different color as well for it. Fluffy coat. And that little bit of exaggeration of the light tells us that he's surrounded by different sources of light. Okay. Right, that's enough little details here. Let's work with some larger shapes above, but that's creating a bit more of lighter tones and more exciting. I think that's what I need to do. This lady needs to have some light on her face as well. Big shapes for her cheekbone. And that's where the nose is going to have a bit more light. And she's got a scarf there as well. Okay, so that's there. Okay. Everybody wrapped up well. Still getting playful fascination with people. Somebody's called there. And then I might give some idea of these buildings highlights now. Right, now I'm going to move into using flat brush again and using a bit more golden colors. So white and ochre and whatever I have left on my brush from orange. And let's do those beautiful windows I've left out. So I'll make them lighter and we'll do some work into the texture afterwards. So some of these windows are not illuminating light. I think they have white shutters and the light is actually coming from the street, but because they're white, they have the strongest, lightest color here. At the bottom of the building is lit up. Part of the sign is lit up. So if my strokes are a little bit still rough, I want to keep them that way. So I can see the full development of the whole shape there before I start tweaking anything. Right, some more lights. There, I know it's loads of details there, but they are quite strong. So let's do now this window. Perspective is quite strong for it. I think there's another Christmas tree overlapping it. Let's just keep it like that for the moment. And the boldness of the windows here, if I'll paint the whole window first, then I can work the window frame and all the lines within them after. A tiny bit of violet on my brush. I just want to have some of the surrounding shapes painted now. So for example, this window sill, okay, still maybe darker than that. However, that will be a good color for the white plaster between the beams. Okay, that tells us that the window is lit up. And some more light falling somewhere in between the structures here. Maybe not as bold. But I'm happy to keep it exaggerated for the moment. Are there the shapes building up? Maybe some of the windows will get even lighter tones. Okay, let's get some of the highlights within the window here. I think I'm going to cover the whole shape and do the window frames afterwards. Okay, and I think these windows will have something maybe actually warmer feels. It's good to have slightly more warmth. So against the blue, that peachy color is quite good. So this lady is going to have a silhouette standing out against the window. So then I can quite boldly go around her. So I am looking for shapes as much as I want to paint just buildings. I'm looking out for shapes and silhouettes. She's got a pom-pom hat. And that light hopefully will help me out to make her stand out eventually. So I think my blue will stay as a window frame, partially just an effect of the light, partially window frame. I don't quite want to count windows. Looks like it's got bolder white at the bottom of the structures of them. Maybe there's more light, maybe just how it catches. I like the direction of that light better now as well. But it's getting slightly more blue eventually towards the bottom, but I'm going to keep it warm for now. And let's work now again back into some medium tones. I'm going to mix some crimson and some violet. I'm going to start painting some parts of the walls. Okay, that's slightly too light. Let's have a look at that. I do love that dark violet background color. It creates immediate atmosphere. So there are loads of details today. Let's see if I can do and work with some of them. Okay, maybe more orangey color for the house behind. Orangey brown, but that lovely brick color. I want the color before stand out a bit stronger. And maybe some bolder, lighter tone in the middle of the house. So then our orange is not forgotten and still quite exciting. There are lots of dark tones here, I think, because of the signs. So I will come back with slightly darker tone there. And I sort of like that color somewhere, more reflecting the light rather than showing the bricks color. Everything is about lighting and that theatrical stage-like colors. Some extra highlights maybe for some shapes, those wooden structures before it goes again dark. Let's make our sign a bit more pronounced. Looks like the sign is getting covered in that snowy foam. There's some lovely writing there as well, which I can work into later on. So it's all playfulness of what's light, what's dark, what shape is this, where that shape has gone, how this shape has traveled. So it's finding those little nuances to work with. Some of the shapes overlapping. Okay, let's build up a little bit more of an atmosphere here again. Some more light under the roof. And then it's moving in the deep shadow. We'll go for a stronger blue, into contrast with the sky, at the same time supported in its color. That's just indigo, and I think I've got a tiny bit of violet left on my brush. But against the warmer brown and fresh blue sky and loads of lit up windows, this indigo, so this ultramarine looks very black. So let me use it as some of the shadows for the beams. Some of the other structures of the blocks. I will need to vary that color as well. I can't just carry on using the same color all the way. It will kind of lose its power if I do. Some windows. I think there is a nice dark shadow for the water to come down. Or maybe it's a beam. Difficult to judge in that light. So now I'm going for those silhouettes of darks. If I overdo some of them, I might need to recall back to some of the warmer colors. Good, right. I'm also spotting that I haven't done this pinky wall. Let's put some fresh white. Okay, maybe not as direct pink, but still pink. Yeah, I think I can do that. Boldness. And then something darker in between. Mixing it with some more blue. So not being scared of going very bold like that color, maybe continuing somewhere else. Still quite a big shape of the wall, so I will change it. Otherwise it's a big chunk of a wall which looks very similar. I think it gives me an idea of how I can vary the front wall as well here, and also show in better perspective. Maybe changing some light. Yeah. So when the colors start making more sense. Okay, those are little gaps of what could be seen behind in the windows. That's maybe my window sill here. That's much more happy with this color now. And that's could be the color for maybe slightly lighter for some of the beams below. Some sort of bluey violety gray. Maybe a little bit more blue. somebody else's coats. So I'm again moving back to see if any other areas might have similarity in color. Or connection, not color. Maybe some of the frames here before I start painting the highlights in the windows. Put some Christmas decorations hanging there. Right, let's come back with some darker tones again. Let's started lighting up, moving back to darks. I enjoyed that ultramarine and violet. That was really fun to work with on the dark background. So let's find some more shapes for it. Some of the black and white beams, well, black beams, black and white shapes. Just need to find it's a little bit of elegancy of the shapes, little pattern of the structure. Again, leaving some of them, my existing, maybe sketchy lines to allow that visual illusion to create the shapes without me drawing them. Quite like some of the ochres in between the beam there. Right, I'll go for a bit more warmer dark, violet and ochre and red. And let's do some maybe pattern building. And I can add black and black blue to it, which will make it stronger in tone. I will just offset those shapes. Again, a little structure for the beams here. Mhm. And a tiny bit more pattern. I'm just making some of the shapes because they will be covered by some of the Christmas decorations, so I want to have more overall feel for the strokes. I don't want them to be too rigid. I just outline them perfectly. That's quite nice as well. It doesn't have to be telling the exact story of where those lines are going, what's happening. It's not as important any longer. Just tidy some of the wobbly lines just a little bit to it doesn't mean that I want to make them non-wobbly. I just want to have a tiny bit of less some of the hairy marks. Maybe the opposite, add an extra shape so it's less perfect. For example, here I might just add, I don't know, it might be a structural something, might be a little light. Okay, so that's building up, building up, building up, building up. Right, let's have a look now. Going back into the windows. Oh, I've got one more dark structure here, one more shape. Slightly more violet with it. Top. Lovely quirkiness of the shape above. Semi-connecting it. Semi-disconnecting it. Quite like some of these structures. I think there's some signs. Just pattern of dark. Okay, I think that might have gone a little bit too dark or too patchy. Maybe I'll have to look back in this corner if I can't get it sorted quickly here. I'll just put a little bit of red over this area, kind of something darker red back. Not as light as it was, but not as dark as the tones next to it. Right, then let's look back at some highlights again. Pink. As its window is lit up from underneath. Hmm. Right, pale blue. Houses are moving into being golden at the bottom. And really strong in their boldness. Close to the people. Maybe slightly more white than yellow. So they're not clashing with some other shapes close by. And they will interact with the shapes above by some of those details of the windows, little highlights, and the tops of the roofs as well. Right, I have got a small brush somewhere, painting tiny windows. Okay, that's the smallest I have here. So let's load it. Easier to paint the full shape of the window first and then introduce a little bit of darkness. So we've got a building which has light behind its window frames immediately as well. I also have almost lemon yellow and the white. It's not quite lemon yellow, but it's a fresh cadmium yellow. There's a lot of white. It does remind me of that lemon yellow color if it's used very freshly. I'm going to put the light on in the shop here. Okay, let's get the perspective here right as well. At the top, and we can drag the colors down, streaks down. Okay, so again, that's more lit up area for this section. And anything else behind? Right, these windows are going to dry, slightly transparent. I will need to add extra white in some of them, again to make them more electrified, kind of with electrified light. And also slightly varied in its boldness. Any other light to stay very warm and strong. I haven't mixed the color too well. I think I picked up some blue here somehow. So that's better. Okay, right. And any other warmth I need to sharpen up to tidy things up is something here. It's quite a dark section, so painting over it, I need thicker paint to keep it bold. Maybe close to the windows, having a bit of extra bold light. Again, just charging it with that electricity. Somewhere here still want to be something a little bolder in the highlights. I need some more fresh white. And then I can go for other windows. So by the time I mix the paint, my white is no longer white. let's cleanse the brush. It's become slightly yellowish. So I want to preserve some of the window frames yellow, and I want to paint a little bit inside of the windows. And it's very thick frames. Some more highlights here. That's a really bold white there. So I'm just playing and seeing what's going to happen to some of the elements of the windows if they introduced extra boldness of the highlights. So I'm almost decorating some of these shapes. Decorating it with the light. Touching up anything on them people. some sub nuances. And some writing. Okay, that might be the name of the shop there. Boutique, golden letters. Okay, that's all good. Any other little areas of highlights, kind of more significant highlights? And then I'll do some decorations, some Christmas maybe decorations and part of the buildings. Quite like that buzzing light on the people. Without too much information. Shapes, spring up and support us, our shapes of the buildings. I think there was a person in the coat. I think I've lost him to some pattern of light, but that's fine. Tiny bit lighter nose for this lady, otherwise she jumps out. Okay, if I've got some time for her, I'll come back. Right, so some window frames here as well. Okay, that just will give us some more perspective lines. If not perfect, just creates extra variety of light. of depth for key window. I think it needs a frame, dark frame around it as well. Slightly too dark. Let's make it lighter. Give some of these window frames a little bit more weight. Right, not forgetting some of the rooftops at the back, just too plain and hasn't been touched. And some windows there as well, slightly darker marks for them. And some shadows again. And maybe another sign. And some of the lines offsetting our shadows. And vertically as well, if there are further signs as well. Shop. Little distinctive marks. Right, now I need to step back and see if something else needs touching from the just balance point of view. Right, I'll do some of those Christmas decorations I keep forgetting to come back to. So if I'll make them just in a dark tone, playful, just dark shapes of hanging, and then I'll add some shadows for them, and I'll add some highlights of maybe bubbles, maybe some glittery. And then finally I want to add a slightly snowy texture, maybe a little bit of sprinkle of white in a couple of areas. Okay, that just gives slightly more depth to the windows there. Right, shadows for the Christmas decorations. We can't really see them as much. Mainly go for some stronger ultramarine. Tiny bit of highlights for the tops of them. It just gives an idea there's something hanging there. And just gently lit up by the windows or around the windows. And then finally a few more touches of much stronger, fresher color, with maybe some bubbles, lights. And I want a tiny bit of red around it as well. Maybe a tiny bit more deeper red. And I'll be finishing it off with some snow. Too perfect this side. I'll do some more reflections there as well. Lovely. Just want a slightly darker mark here by the window. Just to charge that contrast slightly more, the extra depth. Right, I'm going to photograph this stage before I spoil it with snow, or maybe not spoil it, maybe massively improve it. So I'll use one of my, quite like the round brushes. Oh, this one needs washing. Round brush like this gives a lot of, kind of holds a lot of water. I might just use a palette close to me here. Okay, so I've got a clean corner, so I'm going to have a bit of white and a dab of blue here. If I'll keep my colors very wet, then my snow will be a little bit more kind of a little bit darker. It will be much more transparent in color, so I'll see all the colors behind it. So that dribble will be a bit more, not going to be so solid because the colors are all runny, so it's not going to be bold white. Okay, let's go for it. Let's see how it's going to happen. So I'm probably going to start from the top. A bit more over the sky. So maybe I'm going to follow almost like a diagonal. And maybe this corner over the people. That's quite nice. I've got two distinctive dots, 3 of them in this corner. So if I'll get rid of 2, tiny bit more white, so that it will stay there for a bit more bolder, not just dry light. And tiny bit more, maybe over this corner, over this boy. I think that's enough. That's brilliant. I like that. So that's nice and buzzing and moving and quite festive, lights everywhere. At the same time, it's not overly kind of telling every detail of the buildings or the people. So it's got that beautiful, nice atmosphere of the Shambles.